This is the most difficult thing in football, modern football and competition, to be consistent for a long, long time. There are highs and lows, good moments, bad moments, injuries, always. Always you have to overcome situations.
You create, most of the time during a season, you create a basis for the decisive period, and the decisive period of the season coming up now, and we're in a good position for it. That's true. I always wanted to be part of a team who can beat the best team in the world. And I think we are able to do that, but for this you have to win a lot of football games. So, long way to go, but the basis is absolutely okay.
The big problem you have is to start to believe or think something like you are not. So the concepts, the principles, what you have to do as a team for your mates, do mate for yourself, you have to do it, continue.
We created a mentality or whatever. If you want to beat us, you have to be close to perfection as well, and that's good. That's really good, and it's important.
Brilliant from Mo Salah, and still Salah. Oh, sensational! Absolutely sensational!
We faced an incredible contender, a team, the opponent Liverpool. Come on, when you watch them, you see them, so they are one of the toughest opponents I ever faced in my managerial career by far.
I couldn't respect it more, what they're doing. I like watching them, so it's always when we play them, the analysis is the mix of serious work and real joy, because it is fantastic football, and it's like the next level.
Walker stepped over it. De Bruyne! Another gem of a goal in a gem of a game! 2 each.
The good news, they're human beings as well. So, and we all fail in moments, and yeah, you have to be strong enough to be there when they are ready to fail. Let me say like this, or to be the reason.
I love this game. I like the competition. I like when we won, then someone chase you, to beat you, and it's scary to lose, to disappoint the people like support me, then that make you, think about it and do it, and adrenaline for the, the grass, the green, the spectators, the crowd, the media, what's going to criticize you. In that moment today, I'm not thinking about that, because we were 9 months or 8-9 months to arrive in this position, to arrive the last 2 to try to, to win the titles.
None of these boys ever dreamt years ago already of being part of a team who can win all trophies, if you want, not in 1 year, but in general. But we developed together, and that makes it so enjoyable and makes it so satisfying and great in moments. It's really nice. It's really cool. It doesn't give you any kind of guarantees, but it gives you the chance. And in life, you never need more than a chance. If you have a chance, I really think you should give it a go, and that's exactly our situation. There's no pressure. It's just opportunity. So let's go for it, and let's see where we will end up.
There are certain points on which they seem fairly similar, just in terms of their ambition and what they demand from their players, but they go about it in such different ways, and you can see that even in an interview situation.
Yeah, Jurgen, you hear that he's really quite tough on the guys when it drives them very well, drives them really hard. Maybe the same with Pep, but there does seem to be something that if I was in and around Jurgen Klopp in the training ground, I'd feel like I can reach out to him a bit more, where Pep kind of frightens me a little bit, but they've got a drive and a will to win, which is instilled in their players, which is it's unbelievable.
When you were a manager, is it, and especially for managers like them who've been at the club for such a long time, is there a knack to bringing in players who buy into that mentality as much as the way you want to play or anything else?
Absolutely. I think the only players what foul under Pep Guardiola at Man City are the ones who mentally and our attitudes are not good enough, and he just gets rid of them after a period of time. I think if they're willing to open up and adapt to the way he wants to play, you teach them exactly that. I think the difference in styles I think Jurgen's a little bit more off the cuff, and that's what Wrighty's talking about there. I think Pep is is far more of a teacher and a student of the game, in my opinion, and he wants to play different ways, and if you don't do it his way, then you don't play. Whereas Jurgen sets up, look, he doesn't just throw them on a pitch, nothing like that. He plays with a very attacking style, but it's very intense, and he gives them the freedom to go up and perform. So I think the recruitment policies at both clubs have been fantastic. It's really important at every football club that you give the manager, the players, what he's going to have to adapt the style. But it's quite easy with these two because we could recruit for them because we know the types of players who could play for Man City and the types of players who could play for Liverpool. So, you have to give credit to the whole structure of both clubs.
Yeah, and it helps, as we say, that the managers have been there for enough time for that to filter through the whole system. And as much as there are differences between them in terms of what they demand from their players, is that where there's a similarity?
No, absolutely. But I think the methodologies on the daily basis are different. From what I hear from players when we interview them and through these years alongside them, the players at Man City say that Pep learned a lot from his spell, especially in Barcelona, when he reached that fourth year and the players couldn't handle his high levels of demand every day. So he delegates more. He has the players that he really trusts on the inside the room, and these guys help him to manage things among the players as well, and the coaching staff. And with Jurgen, what we always hear from the players is that, oh my God, he's the loudest guy here. He can be infuriating, and this is really funny to hear because, and I mentioned that once to Jurgen, and he gave that big laugh of his because it's really interesting. He comes across as this really charismatic character, but on the daily basis, he's a tough one.
I think when you listen to both of them and you listen to Pep, one of the things that sticks out in the interview is the relentless striving to win again, and that is something that they both have. What you would say about Pep, his team, we know what they're going to do. We know how they're going to play. It's not. They will break you down. They will just continue to break you down, and they do play pretty well all the time. Whereas you could see with Klopp what happens with his team, and like what Tim mentioned, is the way he plays. There's a little bit more chaos in it, and they've got 3 players up the front who will score, but they can win games when they're not playing very well, whereas Man City just absolutely hammer you into the ground with the way they're playing, and they won't change that. Whereas you can get people off the bench you don't really get too many people off the bench with City who come on and change, like you might get in Origi, like we've seen Shaqiri do it. And this is the difference in this run-in now. We know that City are capable of just continually going on a run. We know Liverpool can go on a run. I think both of them have got the best in respect of Premier League runs. They're both up there, top 6, but you just look at the way the teams are and the way that both of the styles are, and you just want to see who's going to do it in this run. I'm so pleased we've got an actual run in this time.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear Pep Guardiola as well. When you look at the games that they've got coming up, I mean, they will not want, well, they can't afford to slip up, certainly in the league, and they definitely can't afford to slip up in the Champions League, or they're out. Yeah,
I mean, when Pep, you can take it with a pinch of salt, whatever he says to the media. I mean, he's going to tell us Burnley away and Brighton at home are the 2 toughest games they've got, and forget the Liverpool at home game. Listen, what I loved hearing about them interviews, they're both difficult. But at this time of the season, you cannot lose any football matches, but the head-to-head is going to be the huge game. That's going to be the decider, in my opinion. I think they're both capable of going the whole season without getting beat. When you listen to both managers talk about each other's and about each other's teams, there's an awful lot of respect there. Huge amount of respect. And I don't think managers have always had that with other managers have always won. They won't say it publicly, but like a Jose Mourinho side, the way they won, they wouldn't be admired by these 2 characters. They want to go on the front foot, they want to go toe-to-toe, they want to play attacking football. Anyone who wants to win the Benitez way, the Jose Mourinho way, they would hold their hands up and say, well done, but they won't admire it. It's not how they want to go about playing football. Whereas regard to the playing styles of both of these, I think they've got an utmost respect, the way they take the game to the opposition.
And like you said, the games against Burnley, for example, might not be the most difficult on Manchester City's run-in. But it might be that they're more difficult because the players will naturally be focused for the Liverpool game.
Pep would be so happy to hear you say that, because I was actually watching an interview from him and he was saying, I understand the attention around the big games, but I'm not too concerned about that. I'm not nervous about these matches. I'm not anxious about them because I know the players will be focused and driven. But Burnley away, it's always those matches that are underestimated sometimes, and you see that in his behavior on the touchline. If City is winning, Pep is losing it on the touchline because he wants to keep the players focused all the time. He doesn't want the players to get settled. And sometimes if Man City is losing but they're playing well, he's more relaxed. So it's very interesting to watch. And with Jurgen, it's the attention with the details. Like sometimes you're watching Liverpool play and
whereas Jurgen Klopp came through at a different level where he had to get a whole kind of team mentality together.
Yeah, and Pep's always won. I mean, he's always been used to it. You don't keep your job at Barcelona if you don't win continuously. You don't do that at Man City either. You don't do that at Bayern Munich. Everywhere he's been. Whereas Jurgen's had an upbringing where you can develop a structure. A bit like Ralph Rangnick's side, coming from that background of building the clubs and getting better and then moving on. Quite rightly, he was ready to step up because he's got the charismatic character to be able to step up to a huge football club like Liverpool. But it's different in character, whereas Pep he's so demanding to his players every single day because it's about winning. And if you don't win, if you take your foot off the pedal and you lose, we all go. He's the first one to go. He knows that. He knows the responsibility stops with him. After the season finishes, turns his phone off for 1 month, does not speak to anyone because he needs that release. Whereas as the season's going on, he will just continually go in and drill them players on what he demands. And it must be mental for the player. It's an incredible stress on them players every single day. But if you're not willing to go to his side and listen to it, you won't play. And that's why mentally on the recruitment has to be as good as the physical output of these players. Mentally you have to be prepared to take this on board. Whereas Jurgen, I think, is a little bit more freedom, a little more joyous around the training ground. But I'd love to play for either of them.
But particularly with this run-in, you come into this run-in off the back of the season that was interrupted by the pandemic. Yeah. So although there wasn't football played for a couple of months, the players still had to keep themselves engaged in that process. It wasn't a break in the traditional sense. That season then rolls into the European rolls into the next Premier League season, which then rolls into the European Championships, which then rolls into this season. And there hasn't been that time for players to switch off. So that psychological side of it is crucial over these last few weeks.
Yes, and this season, more than any, in respect of two teams and their running and what they're going to need from their players mentally, is going to be even more there for us to admire, because what they're going through and what they've gone through up to this point, and then the pressure that they're both putting on each other to finish it off is something that, like I say, Kels, to be involved in a run-in is pressure enough as it is, but we're talking about two teams who are expected to do what they do. Liverpool people are still talking about the quadruple or whatever it is.
I'm not sure Liverpool people are talking about the I think they've been warned off that, but yeah.
They've been warned off it simply because you don't that kind of talk around it, but they're in a position where they can go for that. That's the levels. Manchester City themselves are in a situation where they're going for everything. And like you've just documented, with everything they've been through up to this point, the players, I cannot to get into the same vicinity of where their headspace is for them to prepare and then perform like they're performing at the moment. It's inspiring stuff what they're doing. I can't. This is where you want someone to have that season where you see it documented from the start to the end, because it's amazing what they're doing.
And because they've been over the line now, Liverpool. So whereas before they've chased and never caught, and Man City have always won, course and distance, you always give the team who have done it before the advantage. Liverpool know how to do it now. They know how to win, so it's even tougher.
You know the thing as well though, Tim? Remember when they beat them, when Liverpool, what was it, 97 points? Manchester City now know that the Liverpool are tight. Which wasn't long ago, they were 14 points behind. Now they're right amongst it now. And Man City know that this team can chase them down.
Yeah.
Right, and so this is where we're going to find out as well, Natalie, about Manchester City and how much they can say, right, yes, we know you're here, but we're ready to kick on as well. It's going to be magnificent, fantastic.
Yeah, because it's this whole raft of games now that have to be taken into consideration, plus the unpredictability of not knowing what's coming up in the Champions League, plus a couple of things still to be settled in terms of the fixtures between now and the end of the season. It's not all cut and dried. They can't plan in the way that they would maybe want to ideally.
And I think both clubs and both teams learned so much from the last time they were in this situation, fighting round after round, point by point. I think the teams evolved and they progressed in different ways. The managers as well. We're seeing history in the making because they're pushing each other through levels that are unthinkable before. And when you think about the way they play and the way they deal with control, like you see Manchester City and you see how much Pep appreciates things working out as an orchestra and the movement, it's also pretty. And with Liverpool, it's this controlled chaos. They really managed to control, because I remember a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago, people were asking Jurgen, is it really controlled? Because it just seems chaos sometimes, you know, but it's very controlled. So they progressed in a level that is just fascinating to see them going head to head again and dealing with these big circumstances. I remember 3 seasons ago, they had that run of Champions League and Premier League, and both teams facing each other week after week. And Manchester City learned a lot from that, because Liverpool got the best in the Champions League and City got the best in the Premier League. So it's really fascinating to see everything that has been going on in the past few seasons to get to this point that we are right now.
And you look at the amount of points that both managers have taken across April and May in the Premier League, with a win percentage of 71 for Guardiola and 64 for Jurgen Klopp. What we should say as well is, if in the seasons in which the teams have been split in terms, the seasons in which they've been close in terms of points have been the seasons when they've been really successful in terms of getting those points. When the league's sort of gone by May, then you're going to see a drop-off in the players. But when you talk about the psychology of knowing what it's like, what it takes to win a league title, what do you learn specifically from that? What does that tell you? How do you feel differently going into the next season?
You see it in every sport, even the individual sports. We've seen some of the greatest players of golf never won a Masters, never won a major tournament, can't get over the line. That's like winning cups but never winning the Premier League. The Premier League is the big one, but Liverpool have done it now, so it gives you that confidence, gives you that belief. And like Wrighty said, they're 14 points behind, all of a sudden they're right on their tails. It's in both of their hands. This game is going to be huge, and they're capable of doing it. Does everyone believe that? I think someone like Diaz, who's come into Liverpool as well, he's come in there, hit the floor running, because the recruitment's been brilliant. But he's bought into the psychological of the players in there. They're going to say, no, it's about winning. We can't wait for you to settle. And he knows that. Jurgen would have told him, you need to hit the floor running. You're going to play loads of games, but you need to perform. If they don't keep up, both teams, if they don't keep up the level of their performance and they drop off, they'll lose against Burnley, they'll lose against Watford, they'll drop points, and then this cup final is not going to be as big. For me, the cup final is everything. I think both managers keep demanding every single day. The in-house competition of all of their squads keeps them to a level where they will not drop their standards, and they will continue to win until they play this head-to-head, which is a 50-50 game. No one out there could call this game.
You know what, Kels, as well, is I remember with the running, like 98, is, you look at we just saw the fixtures, and there's on that side and there's on that side, and we had to win 12 games in the end. There was not one of those games when you're going into it as the player where we thought, we'll be fine in that game. We was petrified of all of those games. And what Liverpool have done to catch them so as they could keep them under pressure, Liverpool players had to do that. Because if they don't, then they do what they done last season. They run away, win it by 12 points. Liverpool know that they have to win those games. This is why I admire them so much, is because they won them. And now the ball's back in City's court. Right, okay, so you've caught us because you've got the games in hand. But here we go. The mentality and the strength of your mental strength right now, I should say, is where you're able to talk about what it's like to be able to go the whole distance and win the league, because this is the things that you'll talk about when you stop playing, because it's you don't even sleep properly. I don't know what you like, Tim, but you didn't sleep properly. You go into training, everything was quite intense. And I was saying it to Martin O'Neill the other day, because Martin was saying, well, he didn't have it like that. But it was so intense because you knew what had to happen on Saturday was you had to win. You know, and it's such a different place to be.
Yeah, the fear that you talk about, I find
fear.
really interesting, because you're kind of living with that, and there's an element of not wanting it to go away, because it could be the thing that gives you the edge. And so while you don't want to live with the fear, you also don't want to lose it either.
Then, Kels, what you do is, so you then win your game, then you watch City. So then you watch City and then you see, by 35 minutes they've won the game. You stop watching it because you think, okay.
Do you watch City?
Yes, you watch Man United and you think, so when Man United win, you think, oh, they've won. So you think, okay, here we go again next week. Because you want them to lose, to give you a little bit of breathing space, because you know that if they lose, Tim, then you're able to then say, okay, if we draw this game, it's not the end of the world. But if they win and you lose, then it's
But it's incredible, Wrighty, how much energy that watching them on the... Well, you play on a Saturday, and then you watch them on a Sunday, how much energy that takes out of you mentally. It's incredible.
That's going to happen this weekend, because Liverpool play before City, and for the first time... since early, they could go above them in the table. Yeah,
I mean, we had the lead when we it was similar. Difference is they've done it before. They've already won. We hadn't won, so I still wake up now thinking.
What's your record going into winning the title, to that game at Anfield on the last day of the season? It wasn't. You say you won the last 12 games. You see City and Liverpool. It wasn't that Blackburn, was it?
We were 12 points clear and we were on a slippery slope. You know, we were falling off the cliff. And Man United were coming like a fast train. And every game was, like we say, we watched.
You were Mufasa clinging on.
Totally. But we knew we had one game. All right, it's one cup final. We need to go. We need to West Ham to do us a favour. They were playing at Upton Park against Man United. We unfortunately lost at Anfield, but they didn't get the victory. And over the course and distance of the games, 40 games back then, 40 teams of games. I wish it was 40 teams. We're still began now. Then the best team wins. Always the best team wins, gets over the line. But we could see them coming behind. We could see them coming. It's just like Liverpool are coming now, but I'd far rather. We got over the line. We got there first, so I'd rather be leading, like Man City are, than chasing.
Yeah. And again, that's part of the players' psychological makeup. But Liverpool and City players have had to be able to do both over the course of the various seasons.
And this is why, and like Pep said in his interview, continuing to have to win. You know, when do you stop thinking about? So when you say he turns his phone off for a month, but like I can't imagine him not thinking about what he's going to do next. Especially now he's signed for more years at City. I just can't wait to see how this is going to go again. And then you look at Liverpool and who they're signing. You know, just Jota and Diaz coming in, it's kind of just like ramped that up again with what they're doing. And so you can see that they're just like getting ready. They're in the gym, these two, you know. You know what I mean? You can see they're both in it right. They're doing that. We need to do them at work as well. And it's just these two teams are going to continue to do what they're doing.
And in terms of managing that fear, that's where their approach is. Well, and we can see it coming out of the screen there. We might not get the full perspective on how they're going to be in the dressing room, but you get an insight, a little bit of one, into how they would deal with the players' fear.
No, absolutely. And they have the experience, because you have a lot of Man City players who will be like, okay, you remember 3 seasons ago when we could have won the league against Man United, and that didn't happen because Pogba completely came here and trashed us, or Liverpool. Do you remember a couple of seasons ago when we lost just one game and we didn't win the league? So all of that is building up to this, and to these matches, and to this encounter between the two teams, and this amazing rivalry, because the rivalry is so cool. From a neutral perspective, it's amazing. Both managers, it's a really cool rivalry, because they're not best friends, they're not pals, but they respect each other so much, and at the same time, sometimes in the touchline they interact, and you're going like, oh my God, there's a game happening here, but I can't stop watching that. It's incredible.
Yeah, and look, 8 major trophies for Pep Guardiola at Manchester City, 5 for Jurgen Klopp now at Liverpool, and it took a little while to build that, and to build that kind of trophy-winning mentality, but they're there now, and adding domestic trophy to the the European trophy and the Premier League title.
It's fantastic in this era with these two. And when you, like Natalie just mentioned, which you kind of forget because they're so great, is that, remember, they lost one game. One game, and then they missed out on the league by 1 point or something ridiculous. So you can imagine what it's like in the Liverpool dressing room. They will take nothing for granted. Manchester City, in their dressing room, knowing Liverpool won't take anything for granted, they will not take their foot off the gas, simply because they know this team will chase us to the end. And when you look at the trophies, you know what I mean, it's fantastic what the two managers are doing, and for them to continue to have the drive and the energy to continue to go and continue to recruit brilliantly and get those players to play at that level is brilliant for us to watch as neutrals. It's fantastic.
Do you think the one missing trophy on Pep's side there is the Champions League? Is going to have any difference, any influence on who wins the Premier League?
You know, the thing with it is that you almost, for Pep's sake, I would hate for Pep to not win the Champions League with a team other than Barcelona, because I think what he's done and what he's done to the Premier League and how and that Barcelona team, literally, I've seen the greatest football in my life watching Pep's teams, especially that Champions League against Man United. It's the greatest performance I've seen from a football team. But I'd love him to win it simply because he's done everything to win that, and for whatever reason it falls down at the end. And this is why it's not cast in stone. No matter how good you are, no matter what you spend, how good you play, that trophy is not easy to win. And I'd like him to win it simply because I think he deserves it in the way his coaching has gone up to this point. But I would like Arsene Wenger to have won it as well. It doesn't come that easy. That's the only thing that's missing there, Tim. It probably goes that he's got to win that with another team for people to say he's probably one of the greatest coaches ever.
Do you think it has a bearing on the title race?
It could possibly. You know, I know we're going to talk in the second part about the most influential players. Now, if some of the influential players are carrying a knock, you know, in the Champions League, do you play them in the previous game? If they're that influential, do you play them in the Premier League before the Wednesday night game in the Champions League? That is a question they have to answer themselves.
And that's when you have to start to think about what
juggling.
Your priorities. Both priorities might be extremely high, but it might be 1%.
Absolutely.
That just knocks it.
I think Man City fans, if that was the case, I think Man City fans wouldn't have a problem with somebody being rested so as they can go, because they want the Champions League. They want to win that. You know what I mean? Liverpool fans would be delighted with that, because Liverpool fans they've won the Champions League. Now they've done it, and they've done it a couple of times, and they're doing the Premier League. I would like Liverpool to be able to win the Premier League in front, so as their fans can see it in Anfield. I'd like that to happen for them.
Yeah, that emotionally, you feel for the sets of supporters would deal with that at the moment. At that stage, they go, do you know what, we'll cash in our chips. We'll take that one. That would be a fair way to set it. In terms of how the managers deal with these high pressure situations between now and the end of the season, that's another area in which they seem to be very different. Almost like Pep Guardiola almost underplays it, at least publicly, and says, we're fine, I trust my players, it's all good. Klopp seems to build it up even more. He's like, this is a huge occasion, we're really excited. It feels like, I often say this with City and Liverpool, it feels like they're fire and ice. It feels like there's a different kind of emotional motivation behind it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because Pep mentioned that before the Champions League final, he had a great night's sleep. He was don't know if he was playing it down or if he was really relaxed. But what I did notice was that in these 6 years that he's been in Manchester City, he changed a little. I think he's more relaxed is too strong, because I think he's never properly relaxed, but I think he manages himself better in these big situations. And with Jurgen, I don't know, it's different, because I think this fire that you mentioned just really works for him. And with Pep, I think he needed to go the other way, and he needed to find a balance between that Pep Guardiola from Barcelona, just to, tone down a little.
I like the way Klopp does it. You're right with Pep. He had to try and kind of temper it down a little bit. Whereas,
what's the City especially? Put your head in the fridge.
But what I like with Klopp is the honesty of the situation and what we're feeling right now, and what I think he gives people in the way he expresses how he feels in the moment is the true honesty. It's not a manager trying to let his players see that I'm doing an interview, but what I've said in the dressing room, I'm out here now and I'm a totally different persona. I could see Klopp being in the dressing room and being exactly the same about, this is magnificent, this is what you're playing for, this is it. Whereas, like you say, Pep will be totally different in the way he does it, but at the same time, I like the both of them. I like the way they both, because their teams react to it. But like I say, with Klopp, that's why I could play for him, because I feel like I would charge through a wall for him, the way he makes you feel. Because it's honest, it's happening right now and the pressure's there.
But that's why, like you said right at the beginning, the recruitment has been so important because you get the kind of player that responds best to that style of management. Yeah. And Klopp has players who seem to thrive on being fired up even more. Guardiola has players who seem to thrive better on just play your game.
Let me play.
Just go out there and do what you do every
exactly
week.
What you're doing.
Yeah. And I think that's why you have to give the credit to the whole structure of the both football clubs. But for me, Jurgen, you're absolutely right. He's more box office to watch, and Pep's far more calculated. But if you're not prepared to listen and go through that with Pep, he doesn't dress it up either way. He's like this. From the first game of the season to the last game of the season, or to the cup final, what they're going to play in April, we know he's going to be on a level kill. After the game, his emotions will be here or they'll be there, but he will come out and he'll talk to the media and he will just be that level-headed guy who we've seen since the first game of the season.
We, on the other hand, are going to get even more giddy as we build up to that game. It is still another round of games in the meantime. Liverpool will take on Watford at Anfield, and Manchester City will go to Birmingham go to Burnley at the weekend. Don't go to Burnley. There isn't a game there for you.